Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Bashim Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth and all the spirituality, and salutations to all you accomplishing his word throughout the four corners of the earth. This is an article from CNN.com, and it reads, What are stablecoins? Everything to know about the crypto being debated in Congress. And I did a lesson on this a few months ago. I think when Trump first came into office. Pretty much Trump is trying to go the crypto route. And during his campaign, he was promising people that he wouldn't allow the CBDC to be implemented. But you see that everything that he promised in his campaign, he's not holding true to. He's going against everything that he was saying while he was campaigning. And that's to be expected because he's a politician. Politicians are the face of, for the powers that be, the head in hand, the elites, those globalists, the, bankers. They use those politicians, as the forefront to implement different policies that'll benefit them, And that way, they reduce risk of, people taking their heads off, because now whatever happens, they could just blame the politician. Just like how you see Trump blaming Joe Biden for everything, So it says, stablecoins are on the verge of going mainstream, analysts say, as a landmark regulatory bill makes its way through Congress. The Senate is deliberating through the Genius Act, which would provide a framework for regulating stablecoins. The bill last week passed a major procedural hurdle in the Senate after initial resistance from some Democrats. Stablecoins are a type of crypto asset that is tied to the value of another asset, such as the US dollar or gold. They were initially created as a way for crypto investors to store their money, but have grown in popularity in recent years for their use in digital payments. So pretty much, stablecoin is nothing but a digital dollar, So you have $1, one stablecoin, That's what it's saying. It says the landmark bill would provide a boost of legitimacy to the crypto industry, and is another example of how cryptocurrencies have had a major revival under President Donald Trump's second term. Yeah, so Trump is the man set up to bring about this MOTB system, man. It says proponents of crypto have welcomed the focus on advancing stablecoin regulations, yet critics have pointed to the Trump's family ties to the crypto industry. For example, World Liberty Financial, a company tied to the Trump family, has issued its own stablecoin. So you're going to have different stablecoins, They're always going to give you the illusion of choice. You're thinking, oh, well, I don't like this guy, so I'm not going for his stablecoin. I'm going to go with this guy that I like. I'm going to go with a Trump stablecoin. I'm going to go with an Elon stablecoin, But it is all the same thing. It's a digital currency, CBDC. It says stablecoins seem to be here to stay, analysts at JP Morgan Chase said in April. Note, a few years ago, we probably would have debated the accuracy of that sentence. Not today. Yeah, because a few years ago wasn't the time for that. You had to have all the systems being set up, to eventually bring about this digital currency. It says, while cryptocurrencies are known for being volatile and fluctuating in value, stablecoins are supposed to be, as their name suggests, stable. This is because stablecoins are pegged one-to-one to another asset. They are most often linked to US dollar, making one stablecoin worth $1. So it's pretty much a digital dollar. That's what we've been prophesying, starting with the apostles for years, man, that there will be a digital currency, and it will be through eventually a microchip because, first this is a digital dollar, and then they're going to say you're going to need a means of identification, which will be under your skin. So that chip device is going to have all your information in it, your banking information, you know, medical information, driving record, everything. All your background will be tied to this chip. They'll be able to scan it and know every single thing about you, your assets, your family, everything. Right? It says companies that issue stable coins are meant to hold reserves of another. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it on that. So I went on ChatGPT and I asked it, what are the risks of stable coins? It says government issued stable coins, often referred to as central bank digital currencies. So that shows you that this is exactly what it is, a CBDC. I thought Trump said he was going to do away with it. He said he was going to pass executive orders blocking it. But, he's actually doing the opposite. It says digital forms of national currencies like the dollar, like the digital dollar, euro, or yuan. So this thing will be global. It says while they come with certain benefits such as efficiency, security, and inclusion, they also carry significant risk, including, right? So they're always going to sell it as if it has all these benefits, it's what's it called? It's profitable to you. It's convenient. You don't have to carry cash. You won't be getting robbed. Those are the different benefits that is being presented. But it's a trap. It's a snare. It says privacy and surveillance. It says risk. Governments could track all transactions, raising fears of mass financial surveillance. Yep. So they're gonna be able to know everything you're doing. They're gonna be able to know what you eat, for breakfast, what you spend your money on, and they'll be able to regulate it, because that's the whole agenda. It says, example, like cash CBDC transactions can be fully visible to central authorities. Implication, citizens might lose the ability to make private transactions. There you go. So, let's say you want to send money to somebody, guess what? They're going to be able to tax that too. Whatever private transaction you're doing, they'll be able to regulate and monitor it. It says disruption to commercial banks. It says risk. If people move money out of banks into CBDCs, it could destabilize the banking system. And they're going to do that. They're going to destroy the smaller banks, and only the major ones are going to remain, like JP Morgan, Bank of America, right? The big ones are going to remain while the small ones are going to be absorbed. It says scenario, in a crisis, people might rush to convert bank deposit into safer CBDCs, creating bank runs. Yeah, and there will be bank runs. It says implication, banks could lose their primary source of funding for loans. So that means, banks are going out of business. That means less loans available for people. You can't buy a house. You can't get a car now. It says government control over access. It says risk. Governments might freeze, reverse, or deny access to funds, either arbitrarily or due to policy. So they're going to be able to freeze, reverse, or deny access to funds. Right? So let's say they consider you to break their laws. Let's say you post something negative about the government. They'll be able to freeze your currency, so you won't be able to eat. They might put you on a ban for, let's say, 3 months where your money doesn't work. Well, guess what, man? You might starve to death, man. It says example, political dissenters, protesters, and dissidents could be financially punished or excluded. There you go. So, eventually that will lead to what? A death penalty. Like it says in Revelation, the 13th chapter. The Lord's will, we're going to get that. It says this can be used for political or social control. It says cybersecurity threats. Risk a CBDC becomes a national security target. Scenario, hackers could attack the system, causing widespread financial disruption. So they could have this, and you have your money in there. Let's say you had 5,000 saved up. It's going to be equal. So $5,000 in the bank means 5,000 in currency. Now there's a cyber attack. Guess what? All that money could be wiped out. So it says implications. If compromised, trust in the currency could collapse. It says loss of financial freedom or autonomy. It says risk. Government could program money with restrictions. It says where, when, or on what it can be spent. And that's what we've been saying for years, man. You know, the government is going to restrict how you spend your money. So they're pushing the whole global warming thing, with the carbon and all of that, too much carbon in the earth and all that BS, you know. So they're going to reduce the amount of meat you can eat, They're going to give you bug meat, right? Bug meat, human meat, and lab-grown meat, like Bill Gates is doing, man, So they're going to say, yo, you eating too much beef, contributing to global warming, So they're going to restrict that. They might say, yo, you've traveled over the limit we want you to travel. You can only travel 5 miles a week or something, or 10 miles a week. And once you reach that amount, you might try to go get some gas and your stable coin doesn't work because you reach your limit. You see, it says time limited money to stimulate spending or restrictions on purchases like alcohol or travel. So time limited money, because with this currency, what they're going to do is if you don't spend it, you lose it. You see, so you'll never be able to save, keeping you in perpetual, debt and perpetual slavery under this government. You'll never have financial freedom again. It'll only be two classes, the rich and the poor. It says implications undermines the idea of money as neutral tool. It says economic manipulation and policy overreach. It says central banks could use CBDCs for direct economic control, like automatic negative interest rate or forced spending. If inflation is high, they might deduct savings or enforce consumption quotas. Over-centralization can distort natural market behavior. That's right. So they'll be able to do whatever with their money, man. Take it whenever they want to, put a tax on you and you got to pay it back. This world that this man is bringing, this system is straight oppression, man. It says geopolitical risk. It says CBDCs could be weaponized in international conflicts. Sanctions could be imposed more easily, or financial access could be cut off for entire populations or countries. Yeah, so with this currency, they'll be able to, have the nations bend to their will. You see? So it says may increase global financial instability. Right? So, yeah, man. So those are the risks, man. And the scriptures tell us about these things, man. And the reason all of this is going to happen as well is because of this coming economic collapse, this recession. You see, the dollar ain't really going to be worth nothing. So they're going to come with the stable coin and say, yo, this is never going to lose its value. Trust in this, This is Revelation chapter 13, I'm going to start at 13. It says, and he doeth great wonders. That he is speaking about the so-called white man, right? Speaking about Rome coming back into power, you see, because this is all going into the Edomite empires, from the Greeks, the Romans, down to America. It says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And that happened with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That was a great wonder. The wonders is the so-called white man's miracles. It's something unheard of, never seen before. If people from the ancient times saw the technology that the so-called white man has today, it'll be considered a miracle and witchcraft. So it says, verse 14, and he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. So he deceived the world by the means of those miracles, by the means of those, that technology that he has. He could, use the microchip to heal the blind, restore, make people walk again, using the chip. That's a wonder. That's going to deceive the world, because people actually think that they have their best interest in mind, when the agenda is to enslave you. Because once you take this, is gonna, you know, the so-called white man pretty much got you in his pocket. It says, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. And that's speaking about the Roman Empire. Rome fell and they had the deadly wound. The deadly wound, their empire went down for 1,000 years, But then it says the deadly wound would be healed. So they came back, during the Renaissance, which means rebirth, because they knew that they were the Romans coming back. That's why they called it Renaissance, So it says verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. So, we see that happening. They're giving life to it. They got the infrastructure set up for it, the 5G towers. Matter of fact, shit, around my house, they just put up a tower, I usually, go to this park. And when I go to the park, I take this path. And, all of a sudden, one day a pole just pops up. I'm like, yo, where the fuck this pole come from? I'm like, yo, I bet you that's a 5G tower. I look up, it's a fucking tower on a pole, 5G tower. So this infrastructure is already set up, right? So they have power to give life unto it. And Trump is passing the legislations to bring it to pass, It says he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. And the image is going into the whole New World Order, right? So part of the New World Order is having this RFID chip. That's the main epicenter of the New World Order, because it won't be possible without having this thing, because this is how they'll be able to have total control over people's lives. It says, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So listen, if you don't agree with what the government is saying, if you don't agree with the way things are going in the society, guess what? It's going to be detrimental to your life. You're going to be labeled a terrorist. You're going to be labeled a criminal. And Trump is the cruel Lord in Isaiah the 19th chapter. So guess what? He's going to criminalize, not agreeing with him eventually, right? So it says, verse 16, it says, the need cause of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. So everybody's going to be subject to this globally, because the scriptures say the hour of temptation is going to come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So the hour of temptation is when this chip is implemented in the midst of all hell breaking loose, in the midst of a famine, in the midst of, low jobs, where all jobs are lost to AI, That's going to be the temptation, because people ain't going to be able to take care of themselves or their families. So they're going to be tempted, by the devil to go ahead and take this thing, And just like how Satan came to Yahushua at his weakest point, when he was hungered, he fasted, he was in the desert, he was weak. That's when Satan came to him and offered him the world. And this is how Esau is going to come, as an angel of light. Oh, you thirsty? Oh, you hungry? You lost your job? Man, I feel so bad for you, man. But listen, if you take this, trust everything is going to be all right. You're gonna be able to get your what's it called, universal basic income, where you get $2,000 on your chip every month. You'll be able to get your rations once you show your identification. You go to that store right there that where the military is guarding. They'll give you some rations. Right, that's the hour of temptation. So it says they're gonna receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now we already know, when you look up the word mark, it's charagma in the not in the Hebrew, in the Greek, charagma. It says a stamp, an imprinted mark of the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand of the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, which the scriptures say there are many Antichrists, but this beast system is a Mashiach system. It goes against the ways of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. So it says the mark branded upon horses. Yeah, so if you take this chip, you're pretty much property. You're like cattle for the elites. It says thing carved, sculpture, graven work. That's right. So thing carved, sculpture, graven work, because this chip is pretty much an idol, you know, just like the king of Babylon made an image of himself, a statue of gold that everybody should worship. Well, guess what? This chip is the same thing. It's an idol for you to worship the elites. You know, this is their statue, so to speak, where you worship it. You basically worshiping them, giving them your energy, which shows you that this thing is physical. It's not, the mark is not spiritual, like some camps are saying, you know. And we in June, right? And the microchip is here, man. Nate for years was denying it, saying his June ain't no microchips. Don't listen to these conspiracy nuts. Now you're starting to see he trying to butter his way in, He talking about, oh, could there be a microchip? Yeah, of course. But that's not the mark of the beast. So he gonna keep switching it up. And when it's here, he gonna act like he's always been teaching it. And listen, hey man, here's I've been telling you for years, man, bitch. Hey, listen, years ago we did a lesson on digital currency. Now look. Oh wow, Bishop, he's so great. Their congregations looking at them as prophets. Meanwhile, for years they was cursing us out for bringing these things out, man. Right? So it says of idolatrous images. Okay. And then the root word for charagma is charax. And it says a pale or stake or palisade, which, is like y'all know what it is. It's those like a wood with sharp ends, like a white picket fence. That'll be considered a palisade. Right? So it's something that's gonna be stuck in you. They're gonna puncture your body to put it in you. It says a palisade or rampart. It says pales between which earth, stones, trees, and timbers are heaped and packed together. But yeah. So it says, I'm gonna go back to it. Revelation 13 and 16 again. It says equals of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, which, you see Elon Musk and a few other companies are working on brain chips. And Apple is the latest one to hop on the trend, to the whole Neuralink thing, and they're going to have competition. They're going to act like, because you need that in capitalism. So they're going to have different forms of the chip, different companies making them to give the people the illusion of choice, to where if you're somebody that say, I don't like Elon Musk, I'm going to go with these people. They look more trustworthy. Meanwhile, they're all working hand in hand for the same agenda, right? It says, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. That's right. So, without it, you won't be able to function in society. And, the ones that get it, that are able to function, will be limited. They will be slaves. They won't be able to just spend their money on whatever they want to, whenever they want to. No. The government might have it to where you can't make purchases after a certain time, So it says, here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 603 score and 666, which is the barcode, on that UPC code for all products globally. So taking this chip will make you a product for the elites, man. This is Genesis chapter 47 and 15. It says that when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence, for the money faileth? Yeah, because, the money fell back then in Egypt and is going to fail again in the new Egypt, which the new Egypt, spiritual Egypt, is America, Babylon the Great. So the money failed and they came to Joseph, begging, give us some bread. That's what these people are going to do. When the money fails, the economy collapses, they're going to look to the government to give them handouts. Verse 16, and Joseph said, give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. Yeah, so, the whole motto of the Great Reset is you will own nothing and be happy. So you're going to have people giving away and selling their assets for dirt cheap. They're going to have, let's say a car, a nice brand new car that they fully paid off. They're going to go to the government, probably, and, they'll give them some chump change, or some rations for that car, or if you got gold or whatever assets people have, they're going to give them away for dirt cheap, because they're going to want to eat, because we're coming into a time of famine, right? It says, the scriptures say the storehouses are going to be found empty. So famine is a great motivator, man. And the so-called white man knows that. So that's why he's going to cut off the food, and so that you could solely go to him and depend on him for the one of all things, So it says, when that year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said unto him, we would not hide it from our Lord, how that our money is spent. My Lord also have our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my Lord, but our bodies and our lands. So right there, it shows you how desperate they are. They spent all their money. They gave away all their assets. And they said, we don't got nothing left but ourselves, man. Right? It says, wherefore should we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread. And that's what the elites are going to do. They're going to buy you people out, And the chip is going to be the buyout. And we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh. And give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. So basically, when they give up their bodies, they're going to become servants to the elites, Go to Job. This is Job chapter 3. Oh, is it 3? Oh, it's like it might be Job 1. No, it is definitely probably 2. Okay, yep. This is Job chapter 2. I'm going to start at 3. It says, and the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that fears the Most High and escheweth evil, and still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. Yeah, because Job, he was blessed. The Most High blessed him with riches, wealth, everything. And the Most High, Satan, when he came forth in the spirit realm, where you coming from? What you been doing? I say, hey, man, just been doing my job, going to and fro on the earth, killing people, causing mischief all over the earth, as you commanded me to do, because that's Satan's job, So verse 4 says, and Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. That's right. So, it shows you the mindset of men, that survival mindset, that beast-like mindset, to where, you want to survive no matter what, so you're going to do no matter what to survive. And that's what's going to happen with these people, man. The hour of temptation is coming. The so-called white man is bringing in the squeeze. They're going to be suffering, losing their jobs, to AI, all their benefits gone, all their stocks, everything they've ever worked for gone, And on top of that, World War III, men getting drafted, shipped off, pandemics. It's going to be all hell breaking loose. So the way out will seem, the chip it will seem like the way out, So people are going to give up their bodies in order to live, right? All that a man have will give for his life, because they don't want to die. They want to keep going on in society, you know. But Yahweh Shah, he told us, his servants, that if you're going to come serve him, you got to despise your life. If you lose your life for his sake, you're going to keep it to life eternal, man. You know, love of your life will result into your own downfall, you know, which is why we got to get our mindsets ready to lose everything, man. The scriptures say, be ye as pilgrims upon the earth, you know, in those days. So the world is going to seem like they're flourishing, like everybody's doing good, you know, because just like the days of Noah, they're going to eat, drink, and giving in marriage, right? Because the chip is going to make it seem like everything is back. You know, we're back for sure. We could party again, you know. We could go to clubs, do different things because, you know, the chip is here. But that's going to be to their own demise. Matter of fact, let's end off with Revelation chapter 14, verse 9. It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yashah, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So taking this chip is going to result to you getting nuked. You know, the missiles, that's what this is going into. Anybody found here on the soils of America that got the chip will be missile food in that time, man, when Yahweh Shah returns, as well as food for the laser beams for the chariots, the so-called UFOs. All right. So with that, I'm going to close out to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Yashah, Bashem HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. They give us his truth and all his purity. And salutations to all you accomplishing this word throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom.